Hey everybody, welcome back. Believe it or not, we are already on lesson 10, which means before I start, the first thing I need to do is thank all of you for sticking with me this far through the first 9 lessons. I know there have been some rough spots and some less rough spots, but you've been by me the entire time. I really appreciate it, and so thank you again. I also hope at this point that you've identified a few other people or you've gotten a few other people interested in, watching these slides or in getting to learn Bukharo so that after you finish watching all of these lessons, you can go ahead and start playing. If you haven't actually reached out to anyone, I would suggest sending them some of these lessons or sending them a link to the app or just something to see if they're interested and get them exposed to Bukharo. So that way, once you finish and once they finish, you can start playing without any waiting period. Um, there's a few lessons left after this. I think we've got about three more, and then there's one more lesson about how to use the app in case anyone has questions there. But we're almost done, so I'm hoping that you can get started playing, feeling out whether or not you're interested in the game, and just getting exposed to actually the strategies and challenges involved with actually playing a game of Bukhara. Anyway, back to the lesson. Today we're going to talk about getting Bukharo and the Bukharo turn. It's a pretty involved lesson because I'm trying to condense this all into one, so it might be a little bit longer than the last few we've been through. So please bear with me. Okay, now a player gets Bukharo if they are the first person to finish their turn and have no cards left in hand. So that means that you have now used all the cards that were originally in your hand, including the ones that you've collected from the deck or the discard pile in sets and runs or to add on to sets and runs that you've already had. And then you had one card left, which you used to discard. You must, as always, finish your turn by discarding. If you are the first player to do so, then you get Bukharo. And the first thing that happens is you get a 50 point bonus for getting Bukharo. Now, the Bukharo turn happens immediately after your discard turn. So the next player does not begin their turn once you do that discard and collect Bukharo. They have to wait. So you actually get two turns at once. Another thing to know is that the Bukharo turn only happens one time in a game. It only happens when that first player finishes their turn and they collect Bukharo. After that, everything continues as normal, as if it's a normal player's turn. Now, the Bukhara turn itself is like a modified version of the player's turn in that it has its own three phases. And of these three phases, only one is actually different, and that's the collect phase. In this case, the collect phase is get the Bukharo. That's it. You pick it up and your collect phase is done. The remaining phases, scoring phase happens the same as the player's turn. You're trying to add to the sets you've already created or make some new ones. And then once you're done with that, you would continue to the discard phase where you discard a card. And yes, you have to discard a second card. So you've already discarded the one to get Bukharo, but because this is a completely different turn, you do have to discard again once your turn is finished. Okay, so we're going to jump into the card interface here again. But before I start, I wanted to just give you a little bit of another segue into the Play Bukharo app. If you look on the left side where the ace, king, queen, and jack of hearts is, you'll notice that it's smashing into the 7, 6, and 5 of spades below it. And that's a problem on a lot of games, especially if you're playing on the iPhone or the iPad, because the space is a premium. I can't expand the space like I would if I had a bigger table or if we played on the floor or something when we had physical cards. In this case, the screen limits how much room I can actually put everything on. So one of the things we did in the Play Bukharo app, there was always the worry that, hey, these cards are going to crash into each other. So what we did is we actually shrunk it down. So if you're looking on the left of your screen where the ace, king, queen, and jack of hearts are, we take out the middle cards and we bring the end cards together. So you only have two or three cards showing. Three cards if there's a joker. So you can actually see that, hey, this is an unnatural set or a natural set, and I will play accordingly. So now watch the entire screen. We're going to condense everything. So all of the natural sets will shrink down to two cards, and all of the unnatural sets will stay as three. And by doing so, we've added a lot more space to the board so you can see everything more clearly. Now, for anybody who wants to see what the full hand is, and there will be reasons for that. I mean, for example, if you look at the right side of the screen, there's a Jack 10, Jack 2 9, but when that run develops, you might want to say, where exactly is that joker? So you can swipe up and swipe down on the Bukharo app to go through the different players' hands and see exactly what card is being used or substituted by the joker. So that way you can strategize and figure out what you actually want to play and what you want to discard during your turn. Okay, enough of that. We're going to use this condensed screen for the rest of the game, but I just wanted to give you an intro to that. Now, back to the actual game. So Looking at player two's turn, player two is in blue right now, so it's their turn. And just for anyone who's curious, I actually continued this game from the previous lessons. So the hands that the players have are actually continuations of the hands that they had in the previous lessons before that. So player two just drew a queen of diamonds. Now, if we look at player two's hand, they actually have a very, very useful hand to playing all their cards and making a whole bunch of sets or adding to the sets and runs that they already have. So let's look one by one. You have the all the diamonds and the two of hearts can be used to expand the jack through nine of diamonds run, while the three, four, and two of clubs can be added as another run. So by just looking at those, the only card remaining after that those two scoring items are completed is the ten of hearts. That gives us one card remaining and a discard turn. So once we drop that 10 of hearts, basically we've removed all the cards from our hand. Now, looking at player 3, 4, and 1, they still have cards remaining in their hand. So they're not the first person to do that. We are. So player 2, as the first person to remove all the cards in their hand, gets the Bukharo. So let's watch how that's done. So first, player 2 is going to remove all those cards. They're going to add that set, and they're going to expand the diamonds. That plus 100 points comes because we went from just a few diamonds to over 7. So because we have a natural run, we now get 100 points, and we have that 10 of hearts left. That 10 of hearts is going to go straight to the discard pile. We've now removed all the cards from our hand, and by doing so, we've collected Bukharo and another 50 point bonus. Now, the game continues, right? So we finished the first part of our turn, which was the collect phase. We've now collected the Bukharo. Next comes the scoring phase. So let's take a look at this. If we look at player two's hand, the 10 Jack and Queen of clubs fit perfectly with the 9 through 7 run that player 2 already has. We also have a 10 of spades that can be added to the Jack 2 9 of spades as a replacement for the 2 of spades. And then we also have an 8 of diamonds and an ace of diamonds, which can be added to our queen through 4 run of diamonds. So what we'll do is we'll pull those out, we'll update the hand, and you can now see that player 2 has finished the second part of their Bukharo turn, the second phase, and they finished the scoring. The last thing that remains is the discard. And so looking at player two's hand, again, we don't see a lot of cards that are useful for other players, but the card that looks maybe the least useful for player two right now, or at least one of the least useful for player two right now, is that four of diamonds. We already have a four of diamonds in our ace through four run, and it doesn't look like any of the other players can use that as well. So why don't we just get rid of that? So player two will get rid of the four of diamonds here, and once we flip it, player two has now finished his turn, and player three begins. So that is the full Bukharo turn for a given player. Player two finished their player's turn, did their Bukharo turn, and then player three got to start. So just keep that in mind. And the other thing to keep in mind is that you must discard to finish your player's turn if you qualify to get Bukharo. Okay, I hope that made sense. Feel free to send me messages or ask questions in the comments if you didn't fully understand what was going on. Now, one question that I was asked before, which is a fantastic question, was what happens if no one has gotten Bukharo and there are no cards left in the deck? So in this case, we have the Bukharo hand sitting there on the side, but no player has been able to finish all the cards in their hand to actually collect it, and now we've run out of cards in the deck, so there's nothing that we can draw. Well, in this case, it's a special situation, but the Bukharo cards are then moved to the deck, and we use the Bukharo cards as if they are the deck. So you start drawing from that one at a time, basically giving you 13 extra cards for 13 extra turns minimum. In this case, because nobody collected the Bukharo during their turn, nobody can get the Bukharo. So nobody gets those points, and that part of the game is basically skipped over. So it goes straight to moving on as if the Bukharo turn never happened. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Thank you for watching. And again, you've now been with me through 10 lessons. I think it's a pretty, milestone moment here. Please pat yourselves on the back. There's only a few more lessons after this. We'll talk about finishing the game, scoring, and then, like I mentioned, the bonus lesson, which talks about just how to play the app. Uh, Please feel free to send these lessons to your friends. Again, I'm hoping that everyone by the end of this has found somebody else to play with. And if not, reach out to me. Maybe you and I can get a game going on so that way you can at least get exposed to it. But I'm hoping that you have someone to play with because, as I mentioned earlier on, Bukharo is not a single player game. It is a community game. It's a game for friends, acquaintances, family members to get together. It's as much about the interaction as it is about the game itself. So get out there, find someone to play with, send them the lessons, send them the app, send them the book, do whatever you need to do. Just teach them yourself. I'm just hoping to spread the Bukharo cheer around, if you will. Again, thank you for watching. I will talk to you next time for lesson 11, where we talk about finishing the game. Have a fantastic day and take care.